Welcome to episode 226 of the Daniel Yours podcast with today's guest, Dr. Ashley Dwyer. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Joined here today by Dr. Ashley Dwyer. Ashley, thank you very much for being here.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
What is PCOS and why does it seem like everybody has it these days?
Oh man. Okay. So PCOS stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome. It is a metabolic disorder that is kind of disguised and talked about as a reproductive health issue for women because it generally involves irregular cycles, high testosterone, high androgens, cysts in the ovaries. So it is mostly diagnosed at a gynecology appointment, right? Gynecologists, blood tests, ultrasounds. Fertility, we think of it as a reproductive issue, but what it actually is a metabolic issue and just a whole bunch of downstream effects. And I think it is becoming more popular because of awareness, diagnostic tools, but also I think a lot of the time it's almost misdiagnosed too. Sometimes like someone will be diagnosed with PCOS and then we're like, not really, they're just having irregular cycles. So some misdiagnosis in there. And then also just the poor health of society that we are seeing that is contributing to these downstream effects is I think why it's becoming so much more popular, unfortunately.
It seems to me, and I mean, I've had a number of clients who had PCOS or have PCOS, not so many currently, but in the past. And it always seems to me like it's such a wide range of symptoms where people have like extremely severe cases. Like I had one client who quite literally almost died and it turned into like a whole host of other issues and she had to go get these crazy surgeries. And like, it was a whirlwind of an adventure for her. But then some others who are like, yeah, I kind of felt a little off. And then my doctor just like told me I have PCOS because my cycle was a little bit irregular. And so to me, not being an expert or something, it's not my area of expertise or something that I'm specifically, researching or anything. It always seems strange. Like how can there be such extremes in this diagnosis, which then leads me to believe of like, oh, it's kind of just a blanket term that we don't really know that much about yet. It's new-ish. And it's like doctors or whatever, not to, poo-poo on people, but like kind of just like throw it out there. And it's like, oh, you have PCOS. What's the cure? Nothing. Good luck. And it's like, that seems sad. That's like been my experience with it from the coach side. So I don't know if you have anything to expand on that or any explanations for why that might be.
I mean, what caught me off guard immediately was the extreme client example you had where you said she almost died. And now I'm like, what? Like, I have to know what kind of happened, not to like break into what is it's coaching. So it's not really HIPAA, but it is HIPAA, like confidentiality, but just like how that maybe morphed into that extreme of a situation.
Yeah, I don't know the rest of like all of the details because it kind of happened before I met her and then after and all that stuff. But it turned into also some sort of lung issue, and she would have like very severe bleeding, very severe pain, and she ended up having to have a portion of her lung removed. So I don't even know how those things were related, but like it was a whole host of things, and she would basically be bedridden for like for a week every single month, not just like I'm a little bit crampy, like couldn't move, like extreme pain. It was quite severe.
Yeah. So I think the most extreme case that I've seen, which did happen before they started working, that's why we started working together, was this extreme situation that she was in, is when you have PCOS, we're also looking at one of the diagnostic criteria I look at. The standard for PCOS is the Rotterdam criteria, which is like hyperandrogenism, so high testosterone, high androgens, cysts on your ovaries, and irregular cycles. So you have to have 2 out of the 3. But what also is measured is cholesterol. So I like to look at the triglyceride to HDL ratio, and like HDL is the good cholesterol. Triglycerides are like the storage of just eating in excess. And just like, we want it to be under 150, under 100 if we can. If the ratio is 3-1 triglycerides to HDL, that signals to me like, hey, we have the metabolic dysfunction that we need to work on with like diet, exercise. I had a client come to work with me who had triglycerides like in the 600s, had pancreatitis, like that type of thing would be life-threatening also. So it's more the upper metabolic issues that can be really huge, that downstream effect into the sex hormones and what we see with like cycle irregularity, insulin resistance, things like that. I think I see it more in like the inflammatory cases of PCOS versus insulin resistant.
Is it, and I want to ask you about the differences between those in a second, but is it fair to say that PCOS would be something that if we could snap our fingers and, make the world the most magical, best place of all time, and there's only healthy foods and we all get enough movement and enough sleep. And like, if we could snap our fingers and make everyone have all like an agreed upon healthy life, that PCOS wouldn't be a thing. It's not something that comes up randomly, like cancers would just develop, even if we were all, acting perfectly. Is PCOS in that realm of like kind of a metabolic disorder due to our lifestyle in part?
I would say 95% yes, because you can put it into remission, right? Like it can be something that's into remission. I've had a handful of PCOS clients who now their labs are presenting as if they don't have PCOS, right? So it can be put into remission by healthy diet and lifestyle factors, but there is a small genetic component that will make someone have fertility issues related to PCOS and cysts and, fibroids and all of those things, and a genetic component for insulin resistance. But lifestyle changes will still manage those. So it's not to say that it won't exist, but it still could be in remission if we could snap our fingers and everyone had that perfect lifestyle.
Right. Makes sense. Going to be mediated by lifestyle. Genetic factors will make you more or less likely to get it, but it won't happen like totally randomly.
Right.
So what are the different types that you just mentioned there?
Yeah, the different types are insulin resistant PCOS, which we see across the board as the most common type. It's 70% of women have insulin resistant PCOS. The next most common is going to be adrenal PCOS. So 20% of women have adrenal, which is more stress related. These type of PCOS clients don't even have a regular testosterone. It's just purely driven by like stress, high cortisol, high DHEAS, normal insulin markers as well. The next most common is post-pill PCOS. And that's because like as we come off of oral birth control pills, estrogen and progesterone are just suppressed and androgens are still hanging out pretty high. So we get those symptoms. It's usually self-limiting, about 6 months, maybe a year is the longest I've seen it if we're not really working on replenishing nutrients. And then the fourth type is inflammatory PCOS, which I've only seen like 1 or 2 cases in my practice. But those are going to be the ones where like food intolerances, inflammatory markers like stress, gut health, everything will kind of need to come into play. They're a little insulin resistant as well, but this is where we'll see a lot of the more severe symptoms.
So there's a lot of different causes. What are some of the potential solutions? Because it sounds to me like in the fitness space, just to frame the question a little bit, there's 2 camps. It's like, oh, your hormones are, blame the cause of all the problems of your life. And then there's other people that are like, oh, it's not your hormones. It's just calorie deficit, just to oversimplify the thing. This is one of the things that sounds like, okay, well, your hormones are, legitimately a problem here. They're out of whack. But so what's the solution to that?
Yeah, I do run in the camp of like, it's not your hormones, it's your lifestyle, because your hormones are a sign and symptom of the way that you've been living. So it does oversimplify it. And when I give some of the tools that we use with our clients, it is going to seem really freaking simple. But it's just people.
Damn it, I wish you had the magic solution.
Right? Like the magic solution is like these 15 ways of living consistently and making it your lifestyle. But I think one of the things to differentiate here and what's so important is how Western medicine also treats it and how they think the solution is. And if you're listening to this with PCOS, you know that your doctor's like birth control, IUD, like those are your only ways that you can control your hormones or balance your hormones, which I think is crazy because you can't balance your hormones. There's no inner scale that we're kind of like working with. So all that'll do is like exogenously raise your estrogen and progesterone and give you withdrawal bleeds, but it doesn't fix anything. It's a Band-Aid. They may also give you metformin with insulin resistance. A lot of dietitians and clients that have come to work with us from dietitians and doctors have also been told to eliminate all carbs and go on an ultra low calorie diet to lose weight. None of that is what is really needed. What's really needed depends on the type of PCOS we have. So for example, if we're doing insulin resistance, because 70% of women have it, the majority of these women are not eating in a calorie deficit. So these are going to be the clients who are like, they struggle with weight gain. They continuously put on weight. They struggle with weight loss. They struggle with like maybe some chin hair loss, I can never remember what this is called, but like it's the discoloration in skin and skin tags. I'm going to get it by the end of this podcast. Niger like something, I'm going to have to Google it, but
Okay.
anyway, these are the type of clients, they really just need to be in a calorie deficit to lose weight. And the problem is the women who are having trouble with this weight loss is they've tried all the things, but not really. They've tried the fad diets. They've tried, Weight Watchers. They've tried things for 4 weeks. They've tried starving themselves. They've never actually tried to be in a moderate calorie deficit. Focusing on accurate protein and fiber is going to be huge for these clients. So protein packed breakfast, I say, for these type of clients, depending on the body fat percentage, anywhere from 0.6 to 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight. 35% of calories from fats. Like I'm not going to put them in keto. I am going to give them carbs because we do need that fiber and they do need carbs for other processes in the body, but just better carbs. We're going to work on meal pairing. So we have a saying in our company that is called no naked carbs, like no carbs by themselves. We need a fat or a protein source with it, unless it's like a pint of raspberries, because the fiber to carb ratio is amazing. So just eating smarter, more protein, more fiber, and then weight training and walking. Like the amount of progress we see in NEAT activity with PCOS insulin resistant clients is insane. And it's so simple, but like it's one of the hardest things to get someone to do, as well as weight lift.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, we would all be so rich if it was just that easy to be like, hey, do these things. I promise you they work. I promise you with everything I own and everything I'll ever own that these things work. But it's easier said than done. So if a client, if someone has PCOS, would, engaging in all these healthy behaviors, like independent of, what I'm trying to get at here and trying to get out is like, if they're trying to lose, what if they weren't trying to lose weight? Is losing weight part of the thing that is going to help put their PCOS into remission? Or is it like, is it common at all? Maybe this is a better question. Is it common that someone would be at a healthy weight, a healthy body fat percentage, and like kind of doing stuff and have some sort of insulin resistance? Or is it likely that they're going to be a little bit more towards the obese side of the scale, and that simply losing body fat percentage, getting into a healthier body fat composition or body composition is going to put it into remission?
Yeah, that's a great question. In adrenal and post-pill PCOS, we will see a lot more of the normal body weight, even too lean individuals.
Okay.
In inflammatory and insulin resistance, it's usually the more overweight, obese individuals we will see because of like the fun, vicious cycle of insulin resistance and fat tissue. Like the more fat tissue you have, the more insulin resistant you are.
Understood.
And
Yeah.
the best cure for insulin resistance is weight loss, is the best insulin sensitivity hack. So if we can get body fat into more of a, from obese to even overweight, we see dramatic changes. So it is going to be, weight loss is going to be a huge proponent in that.
So given that, are you seeing anything in your practice or in your world about people using Ozempic or the GLP-1s for PCOS? Because, I mean, they were developed, quote unquote, for diabetes, but we know that they don't just magically like make diabetes go away. They help you through appetite suppressant to lose weight, and therefore your diabetes, which is a form of insulin resistance, gets under control. So are people using it specifically for PCOS as well?
Yes, they are. That has become one of the like Western medicine bouts of therapy where like before it was just metformin and birth control. Now they have access to Zepbound and Mounjaro. And so we are seeing success with GLP-1s, especially in insulin resistant and even inflammatory cases with weight loss, limiting food noise, getting insulin sensitivity back on track. The thing that I see though with it, or what is becoming kind of an issue, is women who have PCOS are women of childbearing age. They are in their teens, 20s, 30s, maybe even early 40s before we hit perimenopause. These women are trying to conceive and they're having a hard time conceiving because of their fertility. So we get on these GLP-1s and then you can't continue the GLP-1 when you're pregnant. So we are seeing like there's this big question. I don't think there's data on it because I don't even know if that would be ethical to really run a randomized controlled trial, right? It's going to have to be a prospective or a retroactive like study in the future of like what happens during pregnancy once you get off of it, say your first 4 to 8 weeks of being pregnant, and now all the food noise returns, the cravings return, the insulin resistance kind of comes back up. Now we have like an increased risk of potentially having gestational diabetes or preeclampsia or, some of the other issues. So I think it is a great tool, but I do very much believe no matter what it's used for, there needs to be diet and lifestyle changes going on at the same time. Absolutely need to happen. So
I think any sensible person would easily agree with that. I mean, it's
so
great
surprised.
that it works, but sorry.
I said you'd be so surprised.
Yeah, I would be surprised at how uncommon common sense is, but it's like, if it was that easy, then we'd all just like do this. This is the logic that I come back to. Like anyways, we don't need to talk so much about the GLP-1s, but it's good to know that like the vast majority of the cases of PCOS are insulin resistant mediated, and that is like relatively simply reversible. Hard to do, but like by losing weight and becoming metabolically healthy, which is like follow a lot of basic simple principles that people like Ashley and I say till we're blue in the face, but are really boring and hard to implement. Do those things, and it will maybe not totally resolve it, but at least help it significantly.
Yeah. And this is also an area where some supplementation is very helpful. Like our team is more of a lifestyle approach first type of team, and then we'll put on supplementation if we need to, simply because of the sustained type of lifestyle. Like I don't want clients stuck on berberine forever or,
Right.
But that can be very helpful in re-regulating fertility, ovulation, insulin resistance. So there are a handful that we also can use at our disposal.
How would you coach someone differently then? Like say two women, same age, same like physical stats. One has PCOS, one doesn't. Both want to lose the same amount of weight. How would you coach those two people differently?
Yeah. So the activity would probably be the same. They would both do strength training. They would both do progressive overload at least 3 to 4 times a week. We would also be trying to achieve like 8 to 10K steps. They would both have those. They would both have protein goals and macros. We track macros as a community. So if they both want weight loss, we ensure they'd be in a calorie deficit. The PCOS client would have a higher fat percentage coming from calories versus the non-PCOS client. So again, we just kind of limit the carbs a little more than we would in a normal client. I also might practice more of a carb consistent diet with the PCOS client versus the non-PCOS client. So just making sure we are absolutely stabilizing blood sugar levels throughout the day as best as we can. They both would get no naked carbs. They both would get food before caffeine, not skipping meals, not fasting. I don't love that. I don't love skipping meals and fasting. So the approaches would be in the types of food. The PCOS client would have a higher fiber goal than the non-PCOS client, perhaps a bigger emphasis on protein at breakfast, like a very, that's like the most dense meal of the day. I want you to have as much protein in a PCOS client, and different supplementation, but honestly, not too many big changes.
Right. So that sounds about what I would expect. Like say like 90-ish% the same
Yep.
thing, a few minor tweaks here and there.
Yep.
What are the differences in supplementation that you would use? I'm sure this is different, for individuals, of course, but like on average.
I mean, for the average person who doesn't have PCOS, no pre-existing conditions, no nothing like that, we would run lab work. I only would do supplementation after lab work. I don't really want to like guess, but I can feel pretty confident in saying that most of general population America is deficient in magnesium. So I would probably add like a magnesium glycinate at bedtime, potentially a vitamin D supplement. Everyone's pretty much deficient in vitamin D as well. And then depending on their activity or food content, electrolytes, something like that. Like nothing crazy on the non-PCOS. The PCOS, we may be adding, again, magnesium glycinate, great for everyone, vitamin D as well for anti-inflammatory properties. And then over here, we may also include some inositol, myo-inositol. We may include chromium for appetite suppression. We may include some gut health supplements, depending on what type of PCOS they have. So inflammatory, we don't really, I'll monitor gut health, but this could also be really beneficial in having berberine. I love it and I don't love it. So I haven't really seen great effects in clients. I see better effects with my inositol. So we'll add that more omega-3 supplements for anti-inflammatory properties as well, and kind of bringing that whole thing down. So they'll just have a more guided approach in that way.
Right. Makes sense to me hearing that, as like when we understand that this is more of a metabolic issue than like some other category of issue, then we can think, okay, well, what type of supplementation and dietary changes would support those metabolic functions that we're trying to improve, right? And we can look at it from a more systematic view. And I think maybe this is where the standard model of medicine does it. It's like it looks at it as a separate thing, and it's like, well, what is a thing you're trying to solve for? The thing you're trying to solve for is like lifestyle and metabolic function. So like, let's solve for those things rather than make up a new category and like, here, just take this and like, good luck. It happens to a lot of people. Sorry, like it's not obviously helping, right?
Correct. And it's interesting because even with supplements, like I feel as a pharmacist, like a retired or past pharmacist, like the wellness industry is becoming like pharmaceuticals. Like everyone's just on like 18 different supplements, like 18 different drugs, or it's just becoming nuts. So I'd rather do it the food approach first.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I used to work for a gym where the owner was like huge on pushing supplement for sales, frankly, but like he was getting people who are brand new into the gym taking like upwards of 20 capsules of stuff a day, and just like like, come on, like, sure, it's not harming you, but like, how adherent are these people being? Do they need to be spending $300 a month on supplements on top of paying for coaching and all this stuff? And like, is this really necessary? Like, is this the big rock to move, or is it like the 3 bottles of wine that they drink every week? Is like, which one of these things is the big rock to move here?
Well,
So
you obviously know that the supplements cancel out the 3 bottles of wine.
yeah, anyone with brain knows that, duh. But good. It's helpful to understand for me, as someone who doesn't have a ton of experience in this, that like, hey, we can treat this as a metabolic issue, and of course there are some differences that in the approach that we would take, and different symptoms and stuff. But largely we can treat this like that. Now, in the non-insulin resistant types of PCOS, what is different about the way that those people present and how you attack that?
Yeah. So for inflammatory, for example, we have a lot of stress and gut issue regulations. We also probably have the higher triglycerides, higher cholesterol, markedly so, because if we have a lot more inflammation, we're pumping out more cholesterol. So we are doing like less saturated fat. We're also doing omega-3s. We're trying to get HDL and exercise up. We are eliminating foods. So a lot of it is food intolerances. This is where, like, I don't think every PCOS client needs to get rid of dairy, but an inflammatory PCOS woman, yeah, we need to eliminate dairy for a bit, potentially even gluten. We need to heal the gut lining a little bit. They usually have a lot of gut unrest, constipation. Fiber is big here, but not really like increasing it in a way where it's too much, because if you do too much fiber too soon, it'll constipate the client, or just a lot of gas and bloating. So we need to do that in a structured way. And some, supplementation like omega-3s, turmeric, fattier fish, more water, and just kind of these people, the clients that I've seen with inflammatory PCOS are also very like successful at work. They're very stressed as well. So we have that added layer of stress for inflammation. And there's no coping mechanism for stress that isn't eating food or drinking wine, right?
Right.
So we need to find healthier coping mechanisms in these type of clients. It's not hard for an inflammatory PCOS client, but we'll definitely see it on lab markers. We'll see like elevated HSCRP. We'll see maybe even elevated ferritin and iron for inflammation. We'll see the cholesterol, slight insulin resistance. So just getting the weight loss off, changing up the food, especially the food, is going to make such a big difference. Getting in more micronutrients, huge.
I'd bet that for you, like with the amount of experience and knowledge that you have in this, like you probably know what's going on mostly before the blood work comes back. Like someone who's just like, very type A, super go-getter, a lot of things going on in their life. Like people are not just stressed about nothing. Like they're stressed about, and oftentimes it's good things. It could be their family and their business that they're trying really hard at. Like it's overwhelmingly productive stuff. It's not, they're stressed about, nothing. But it's obviously good to have the lab work, but like these things, it's kind of like, you see it coming before you really know.
You definitely see insulin resistance coming. You don't necessarily always see inflammatory, and like not even talking about PCOS anymore. The type of women that we get in our clientele and coaching, and I'm sure the type of men or women that you get, I think everybody is so inundated with stress lately.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're jumping from job to hobby. Like we don't even have times to decompress anymore. We're living through unprecedented times every day. like everything's expensive. Like it is just insane stress all the time now, right? We have phones that go off, like dopamine is just nonstop. So it's not even a question to me anymore about if they're stressed or how we manage stress. It is this person I know is stressed, especially if they're working full time, have kids, have a family, trying to fit it all in. There's no way that we're not elevated and living on adrenaline. And then we're also not feeding our body correctly. There's no healthy coping mechanisms. So stress is just something that is given. It's a given.
Yeah.
So no matter what the client presents with, it is going to be a topic of attack.
Yeah. As you're saying that, it makes me think that, someone who's like super stressed, super high strung is like way above what we should be as humans. But the average among us who are even like not super stressed, not super like, have a lot of things going on, like we're still probably more stressed than like a human should be.
Then we
Because
should be.
just because of the world that we live in, especially North America, maybe other parts of the world, like people are less stressed, or they feel the need to just, or they're able to just kind of like shut it all down and kick their feet up every afternoon. And it's like, that's cool. And that's a lifestyle that I strive to get to here. But not in the current state of things. So it's
that.
Oh, in Europe, they do an impressive job at not working, but I mean, they also don't get things done a lot of the time. So
as a type A American, that would probably drive me insane until I like relaxed into it. Right.
Yeah. There are certain places in Europe where it's like, oh, you get it done when you get it. Like, what time's the appointment? When I get there, that's what time it is. Like, it's like, hey, that's awesome. But they're very difficult to like get things done. But who knows what the right way is to do things in the world, right?
That's hilarious.
Let's talk a little bit about like the post-pill PCOS. That's probably something that's becoming more common as more and more people are taking the pill, then people are coming off the pill to eventually have children, or just learning more about some things about the pill that they weren't taught when they got on it when they were 13 years old.
Yeah.
Tell me about like what it's doing and then how that leads into PCOS.
So what the birth control, I mean, especially now, we have so many women who are kind of being put on IUDs, which is more localized hormones, but that still becomes a systemic issue. Mm-hmm. So when we have post-pill, like I know, for example, for me, I was on birth control for 12 years with no breaks. So you're taking in oral birth control pills, you're taking pills to mimic the cycle that's supposed to be going on in the bodies. And then you're getting that like surge of estrogen and LH to signal to the body, like release an egg, but you're not really releasing the egg. So you can't get pregnant, right? You're not really having a period, you're having a withdrawal bleed. So you're having years and years and years and years of this oral contraceptive suppressing your natural hormonal rhythm, that when you get off of it, your body's like, what am I supposed to be doing? Like I've just been on pause for 10 years. So now it has to re-regulate. And your androgens are going to be pretty much high. Even if they're not high on lab work, they're going to be way more than your estrogen and progesterone as you come back up. So now you have all these women who've been slammed on birth control since they were like in their teens, don't even know what their normal cycle is supposed to be like. Now coming off of the birth control, kind of having like periods every 2 weeks or periods every 2 to 3 months. Like they're not really sure. So we have to figure out, was this an issue that was going on before you started birth control and that you've always had that we masked with the birth control? Or is this something that's just like self-limiting once your body re-regulates to not being on birth control? So some of the things that we have to do is hormonal birth control will really, really cut thyroid function. It will really affect thyroid function. So our metabolic rate will be affected. We'll have a sluggish thyroid. We'll also have our gut microbiome be affected, and we'll also have our liver be affected. And our liver and our gut are two of the biggest detox pathways for hormones and for getting everything working super well. That we need to reestablish once we get off that birth control. So we're going to need like sometimes a gut health protocol to reestablish dysbiosis and like leaky gut. I say leaky gut. I know it's not like a generally recognized term. Nobody come for me on this podcast. A sluggish liver. So maybe like some supplementation to help get that going, like NAC, milk thistle, things like that. And then just replenishing B vitamins and zinc and just things that we were getting tossed out while being on oral birth control pills. And in my experience, it will usually subside in about 6 months, 3 to 6 months. I have seen longer cases, but it really depends on the person's body and how long they were on birth control to begin with.
Yeah. Seems like, I mean, obviously I won't go through this myself ever, but like, seems like it'll be a really hard thing to figure all that out on your own.
Oh my gosh. It's not even like to figure out on your own, sure, but you'll know it immediately. You'll have acne flares. You'll have
You'll know something's wrong, but how to solve it. Yeah.
Yeah. You're just like, what is going on with my body? This isn't even my body. I don't recognize it anymore. Like I never had acne. Now I do. And most women, because it's uncomfortable to go through, will be like, that's it. I got to get back on the pill. And that's like the worst thing you could probably do, you know?
Right. So then supplementation, again, like dialing the lifestyle and just letting a little bit of time pass as well to like let your body regulate it, but like with direction.
With direction, yes. And we want to support like ovulation naturally. We need to get those hormone rhythms back in action. So like the stress component's going to be really important. We're going to want to eat enough. Like this is where a client may not actually want to be in a calorie deficit. Like we need to give the body enough fuel to actually thrive and not just go into overdrive of surviving because we're in a diet phase.
Is it possible that there are sort of two causes? Like what if someone is coming off of the birth control pill, but they're also like obese? How would you attack that?
Honestly,
like how would you be able to differentiate which one of these things is the cause?
Yeah. They will likely having metabolic issues before they got off the birth control, right? So we would still need to change the types of foods that they are eating. We would still need to increase exercise and walking and regulate with like micronutrient supplements like magnesium, zinc, B complex, things like that they're probably deficient in. But it's all going to be, this is where it's really important to work with someone who can differentiate and work with biofeedback because it's going to be person dependent. You have to, this is where doctors will miss the mark, and it's not even their fault because doctors don't follow up with patients on a weekly basis, right? They're not following your bowel movements every week. They're not seeing your energy levels, your hunger, your cravings. They're not really walking you through those processes. So your coach is going to have to be somebody who, if we do put you in a diet because you are obese and coming off of birth control, and then we're seeing those negative feedback symptoms, I'm going to need to like lessen that deficit or give your body a break for you to come off first before we then, go into the deficit.
This is where I think, some of the rhetoric I see kind of like where people are upset about what their doctors told them. And it's like, oh, I just went to the doctor and they just told me to like eat healthy and exercise. And it's like, it's well-intentioned, but with no follow-up and with no specificity, it's like not helpful advice. It's like when, we come on here and say like, hey, eat less, run more. Like that's be in a calorie deficit. That's how you lose weight. Like, okay, great. How do I like do that in my life? That's the thing that actually matters, right?
Yeah.
Is how do we tailor this to the individual? So we're giving a lot of like generalities here, and that's just the way this works. But obviously, with an actual person, you would direct this a little bit more.
Yeah, and you obviously need to do what's practical. Like if 10K steps isn't inherently practical for you, then like we just need to get 6K or figure out like a walking pad situation, or like it needs to be practical, it needs to stick. So I'm not going to recommend textbook things if it doesn't make sense for that client's lifestyle or schedule. I'm sure you do the same thing. We need
Of
adherence and
course.
consistency.
Of course. Like, you know, at some point it's like I feel like I get bored of talking about it, but then I always just remember like this is the most important thing and like this is all that there is. So it's like we need to keep finding different ways to get this out there. But you know, to your point, it's like, yes, well, we'd love someone to have like a lot of activity, a perfect strength training routine, a perfect diet, a perfect sleep schedule. Of course, we would love to just give all that to someone at, you know, on day one. But not every client is ready for that on day one. There are different things going on in their life that, you know, lead them to be able to do one thing or another. If you had to choose, where would you start a client who's coming to you that's like insulin resistant PCOS? They want to lose weight. They want to, you know, where would you, if you could only pick one avenue and say they were equally open to all of them, what would be like thing number one that you would try and attack?
Instantly in my brain shot in like macros and calorie deficit. But like then I immediately go to exercise because walking would probably be way easier. But nutrition is going to be the best bang for your buck at first. And none of these clients understand or know their intake, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even though people like demonize tracking calories or macros, and I understand it might not be for everyone, it's not for, you know, those with eating disorders or obsessive compulsions around food and tracking, it is such an eye opener when you're like, I'm eating. Like, have you seen the reel that's going around? I think Jordan Syatt stitched it. And it was like this woman who was like, I think I eat like 1,000 calories a day. And then they actually measured it and it was 3,000. So like there's so much underreporting that I just want clients to get that week of data and get that like, holy shit moment. So then they're like, okay, this is what we really need to change. And then once we are comfortable in that regard, we're getting in protein, fiber, we're tracking our intake. We don't even like, you can lose weight without exercise. Do I recommend that lifestyle? No, but I think that'll make a really big difference.
It's always amazing to me. I'm sure you do some sort of this, and this is not revolutionary, and not that I invented it, but like, you know, the first thing that I do with all clients is like, well, just keep a food log. Like, give me 3 or 4 days. Just write down everything you eat. Like, don't try and change anything. Like, no judgment. Just like write it down, and then let's see. Then we'll see what's, you know, the next step after that. And every single time, it's like, oh my god, I didn't realize I was like doing that. I didn't realize I was like eating that many chips or that many cookies, or I wasn't drinking any water during the day, or like whatever the thing is for them. And it's like, okay, yep, those are all good observations. Like, let's start with, you know, want to pick one of those and let's start there.
Yep.
And then, you know, not instantly, but like very, you know, in a week or two, oh, I'm feeling better. Maybe, you know, I feel like I lost a little bit of weight, some water came off or whatever it is. And it's like, if we could all, the thing that I would wish for, if we could snap our fingers and do one thing to everyone to influence their health and fitness, would just be make them aware of the things that they're doing in terms of the exercise and the things that they're eating. Because not everyone, a lot of people will tell you that they eat pretty healthy, and it's like, obviously not. Otherwise you wouldn't be in this boat. So one of these, something's got to give here, right?
Yeah. But then we'll fight with like the CECO people online or anti-CECO people online, you know? And even me being the hormone person, like I believe in CECO, just the hormones influence it, right?
Right.
But you said something that was like, I would give them self-awareness around their nutrition and fitness. I would want to give them self-awareness too around just like how foods make them feel, like how they're like tune into their body, right? And that goes with this whole intuitive eating crowd. And it's like, just stop when you're full. Just, you know, eat when you're hungry. And I'm like, do you realize general population doesn't know that? Like they don't like this is why we can't intuitively eat. We'd intuitively eat Ben and Jerry's at every meal. Like
right.
it's not possible.
Yeah. The exact problem is that they were intuitively eating and they were eating junk food. And so, you know, your intuition is broken and we need to fix it by like implementing some rules and strategies and some things. And then we can maybe get back there, but you know, it's not working. And not just to say this so people don't get mad at me, which I don't really care if they do, but like these things are not, like, it's not your fault necessarily. And if it is or it isn't, it actually doesn't matter. The thing that matters is that it's your responsibility to do something about fixing the issue at hand, which is that you don't feel great. And so, you know, whether it's the world, whether it's the government, whether it's whoever you want to blame about like why you're overweight and not feeling great, it is what it is. Like, put that in the past, and like, you need to move forward, and you need to take responsibility for the things that you're doing. And so it's important to me that we're having this conversation about like an actual medical issue in PCOS versus like, oh, I just like want to look better, because the solution is still the same thing.
Yep.
It's just framed as in solving maybe a larger issue. But like, really, all the things that we've been talking about is like, yeah, dial in your lifestyle, dial in your nutrition, dial in your training, and all those things. And like, these things are going to resolve themselves for the most part.
Yeah, it's really not, like, it might sound complicated, but when you put it all on paper, it's really not, once you start making it all like second nature. And most of these women who have PCOS, like, sure, they want to lose the weight, they want the body goals too, but a lot of them just want fertility. Like, they want to have a
Right.
baby with their husband. And that just like breaks my heart, you know?
It's one of those things that really matters, and it's a deeper motivation for sure. Like, almost everyone will come to a trainer or a coach and be like, oh, I want to lose a little weight, I want to look a little better in a t-shirt or this dress or whatever it is. And it's like, okay, like, I hear you want to lose 10 pounds. So does everyone else. Like, what else though? Like, give me something deeper, because
Yeah.
like, what's going to happen after that? You can lose 10 pounds in the next 3 weeks if you try really hard, like, then what do we do? Like, we got to have something more here. And so
Yep.
having a baby, being there for your kids, playing with your grandkids, like, these are the things that like really keep people going.
Yep. Totally.
How long does it typically take for these things to, I mean, I know that's a huge question probably, and like very dependent on the individual, but like, how long does it take to sort of get these things into under control, or what we would classify as maybe remission, to the point where someone's feeling mostly quote unquote normal and maybe able to have a baby?
Yeah. It is not going to be found in your 12 to 16 week plan. It's just not happening. It also is probably not happening in your 6-month plan. I would say a year, because, and that's even on the low end, depending on how much weight we need to lose, like that at a half a pound to 2 pounds per week, that could be, anywhere from, yikes, like 50 pounds, 30 pounds to 50 pounds. Then we also have life that's going to happen. Life is going to life. Things are going to throw you off. Kids are going to get sick. Stuff is going to happen, that's going to throw you off. So let's take that into account. Hormones are also the slowest. They're like molasses trying to change hormones. We will see downstream effects of what we're doing now 2 to 3 months later. So it's not a fast process at all. If we need to add in a gut protocol, if we need to add in whatever, we will need 12 weeks to kind of like 8 to 12 weeks to figure that out. And then we'll have to, so I would say a year is going to be the sweet spot for getting things mostly figured out. And then it's going to be like, okay, is it set in stone? Is this now my new lifestyle? Is this something that I can nurture and understand to like help, fire my coach? Because that's what I do want for clients. And then to continue doing this on my own. Is it getting off medications? Like, all of that is going to be super slow, and it's going to be a process. But I think my best clients that I've had have been with me 3 to 4 years. And that's not necessary for all of them, but I have worked with them through different phases of their life, like the weight loss and the getting off birth control, and then having normal cycles and regulating their cycles, and then getting pregnant and having a healthy pregnancy. And now they're postpartum. So I've been through all these cycles with them, and they do have PCOS. So we're kind of navigating that all together. You don't necessarily need a coach for all of those, but I wouldn't look for a quick fix in this case. It didn't happen quickly. If it's a genetic component, it's going to take time, guys. We cannot rush it.
Yeah. I mean, makes sense to me. I'm not surprised, but happy that you said it in that way, especially because the people who are getting pregnant, like, this might take, even if it takes you a year to get to the point where you're healthy enough to have a baby. Well, you've had these issues for, whatever, however, 25, 30 years, like however old you are at the time. And then you like change all this stuff. You did a lot of good work in 1 year, and then you had a baby, which is a gigantic life event, obviously. And like, what a blessing, and what an amazing time of your life. But then your whole world flips upside down after that. And so what's the most likely scenario when things happen that flip your world upside down? You go back to old habits. You go back to old routines. You don't just like keep doing the thing that you just picked up last year, which is, one out of, whatever, 20 something years of your life or 30 something years of your life, relatively small amount of time. So like, this is why the longevity of like someone in that position who's hiring you and your team, it's like, this is a longer term project than like, oh, well, we put the Band-Aid on it. Like we took the shot, we took the whatever, we put it away for a second. Like, you have to be able to establish these things for the rest of your life.
If anyone was listening to just the audio, because I don't know how this is published, video or audio on places, I'm just sitting here like nodding to everything Daniel was saying in that last little bit. I'm like, yep. Absolutely. And it's so interesting to me because people will be like, oh my God, a year, like, ugh. And then you kind of have to remind yourself and switch your mindset of like, how many years have you already been dealing with this and feeling the way that you're feeling? Probably a ton, if not a decade. And then is 1 or 2 years out of the grand scheme of your life, if you fixed everything and learned how to do it and you have 50 more years left, I think that's worth it. No, like
100%.
Like, you can keep doing what you're doing. Like, what's the alternative? This
is another thing that I always say to clients in like an online and stuff, is just, we need to zoom out a little bit on our whole life, right? It's like you did a diet for 30 days or, a 6-week challenge or a 4-month thing. Like, that's all fine and good, but fitness is forever. It's for the rest of your life. So you do this thing when you're 30. Well, what about when you're 80 and 90? Like, we're going to live a long time. People who are listening to these podcasts, like, you're going to live a long time. Whatever the average life expectancy is, like, you're going to beat that because we're all being healthy and we're all doing these things. So we're going to live a long time. So you can't just give it up. It can't just be like a short-term thing. And so you solve one thing, but there's going to be something else. There's always life events. And so like, this is why like coaching and having those systems in place, like, it's really easy to coach someone who's like got it all figured out and got everything else going on. But like, that's the least time that someone needs a coach. Like, you need a coach most of the time when things are rough and things are changing and things are going hard, which is ironically the least likely time for someone to reach out,
Right. It's like, when things slow down, maybe I'll start so I can give 100% to the coaching program. And I was like, A, things are never going to slow down. B, this is the best time to hire me. Like, when shit's hitting the fan.
Exactly. One thing that I often see in people arguing about whether a calorie deficit is a real thing or not, which is a hilarious thing, because like, what are you arguing if the sky is blue or not? Is they'll say like, well, hormones play a role in impacting how many calories I burn, and it's like, okay, like maybe, but how do you calculate that? Like, how are you even knowing this? And not to mention, most of the people are saying this have never measured their hormones. They just assume it's their hormones. So I guess two kind of questions here is, one, what do you say to people who kind of blame their hormones without measuring? Are there things that you can feel in your body that would suggest that there is an issue with your hormones without actually knowing, with data? And two, how do you go about altering how you determine what a calorie deficit is for that person who does legitimately have hormonal impacts?
Yeah. So if we don't have labs, we can assess based on signs and symptoms, right? Like, your body does put out like check engine light symptoms. Those are going to be cravings. Those are going to be fatigue and, lethargy levels, how well you're sleeping. Do you wake up feeling rested or do you wake up feeling super groggy? If you get your cycle normally, where you even distribute fat on your body can be an indication of what your hormones are doing. Cortisol, and oh my God, I don't want to, we're not talking about cortisol on this podcast. I just can't do it anymore. But if stress is high, so there are digestion, bloating, gas. There's a lot of signs and symptoms that we can pick up on to let us know like what's going on. Fatigue after meals, that mid-afternoon crash. We can see a lot of that. And so, I just like lost my train of thought. Okay, we don't have the labs. We're looking at signs and symptoms. What was the next question?
How do we estimate the what we need to be doing with a client for
calorie deficit
for calories if their hormones are out of whack, quote unquote?
Oh man, the ADHD today, or ADD is prevalent. Okay, so first thing is first. It depends how the client comes into the company. If they have a higher body fat percentage, I know that we need to shift towards weight loss and better metabolic health, better systems for food choices, getting rid of fast food, movement, things like that. The other type of clientele we have come in is going to be the over-exercisers, the chronic dieters, the super, like myself, back in the day when I needed a coach, that we're going to have to like back off training, add calories, get them back to just thriving. But with the calorie deficit, we do the 5-day log. We do a log just like you do. Like, I want to see what you're eating and drinking before you even come working with us. And I know the tracking's not going to be accurate, But it is such an eye opener for a lot of clients who are like, I didn't think I was eating that much. And then I know where to like stick them in their calorie deficit, or we'll use a calculated TDEE. But even if they have PCOS, even if they have hypothyroid or Hashimoto's, it is not lowering their metabolic rate so much to the point that a calorie deficit is not going to work. And if it is, and let's say they can only lose weight on an 800 to 1,000 calories a day, then yeah, we'll spend time like readapting that metabolism. But that's usually rarely the case.
You're being very kind with your words, but I will say that like everyone thinks they're the exception to the rule, and like, oh, it's trust me, like you don't know what it's like. It's like, there are some exceptions. It's probably not you. That's the summary that I gather from a lot of these things. Like some things are different. We guess and check. Everything is kind of a guess and check. We don't know anyone's actual metabolic rate anyways. Like it's always a guess and check for healthy clients. It's a guess and check. And so it's like, we just do the same stuff no matter what it is. And you may have extra challenges and like, okay, we'll just adjust and deal with those, but we're never going to know. And you don't need to over adjust and over analyze these things because we're just guessing anyways.
I love that you said that because I've made content on like, you're not the exception, you're the rule. And it fascinates me that so many people want to be special, want to be broken, want to be the exception. And like, if you're listening to this and you think that there's no fix for you or that there's absolutely something wrong with you, like you don't want that, because then there's no cure,
Right.
there's no change.
Yeah, then you're fucked. Yeah.
Then you're like really, like you said, then you're really fucked. Like you want to just it be something that you're eating too much or some type of inflammatory something. Or we have the other camp of like, nope, this is just how I am. This is my diagnosis. And they're like riding that coattail, right? Mm-hmm. And like, I need you to stop identifying with having PCOS and that being your whole life and like shift over to this new identity. So that's a lot of mindset stuff too. That's a lot.
It's a lot. And it's unfortunately like the biggest part of what we do. Like even in coaching healthy clients, the calories and the macros and the exercise, like the strength training routines, like it's not that revolutionary. Like it's not that difficult to learn and to do, frankly. The difficult part is like, how do we actually do this for that individual, right? That's the hard part of coaching, something that we're not, taught in school and classical education and stuff like that. But even for regular people that are just trying to do this on their own, it's like, the things that you need to be doing. Like you can easily like Google, read a couple articles, chat GPT it a little bit, and within 15 minutes, you can figure out what your calories are or should be. And, at least not completely terrible strength training routine. Like you can figure that out pretty easily. But how to implement that, like that's the part that really, really matters. And especially in unhealthy people, like you said, like not identifying that, oh, this is just my life and like, boo-hoo, woe is me, because what's the end game of that? This is the part I try and be very logical. I know sometimes it comes off as a little bit rude, but it's like the end game of that is like, well, then too bad for you. You're just going to live like that forever and then die eventually. Yeah. And that's not good. So like, why don't we take a little bit more of an active approach to this and look at what can I do about this and then go that way. And if it doesn't work, then okay, but at least try it.
At least try. 1000% at least try. And this is where coaching and like where we are so great, because yeah, you can Google it and you can look at yourself, but you have someone who already specializes in that field who can do a better job of trial and error. Like the things that we're going to suggest to you are already either proven in data, we've already gone through it all, or it's worked so well with other clientele that we don't have to do as many trial and error issues before we change it up. Or if we do need to change it up, we can do so within like 2 or 3 weeks versus you trying to do it for 2 or 3 months. Right. Like it's just so much quicker. It is the quick fix.
yeah, for real. That's actually a great point. I'm going to steal that. But yeah, it's like you save time because we have more iterations of trying things. And it's like, okay, I tried this on myself. When I tried this with this client, it worked really well because he or she has like, XYZ factors in their life. And so it worked. You have a similar kind of profile. So I think this will work for you, but also here's the reasons why it might not work. Like we can kind of see around the corner, so to speak, to be like, hey, this is what to expect. Here's how to navigate the roadblocks that are coming up. And that's just going to save you time and headaches, right?
Yep. 100%.
Are there any big things that we missed in this discussion about PCOS? I mean, I'm sure there's, there's hours and hours and hours of content and stuff about this, but like, are there any big things that we missed?
I mean, I think these are going to be the big dial movers. There's obviously going to be more personal dependent things, but I do want women who have PCOS to know, like, again, that you see all over, like, you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with your body. It's just, we maybe have never, like you said, we've never been taught how to navigate hormonal issues. Women's health has kind of always been on the back burner for scientific evidence and how our cycle, is even managed. Like, I think even in 2023 was the first time a study came out of like actually testing period products with blood. Like, what? It's just weird. Women's health is not great. Um, but there are ways to manage these disease states. There are ways to return to a healthy baseline and normal. So I just, the biggest thing is going to be, stealing what you said, just to like try, like look for answers. Like, you are not doomed to stay on birth control forever. You're not even subjected to be on a GLP-1 if you don't want to. Like, there are many, 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 many ways. And I will say, if budget and working with someone on this is the holdup, there are so many accounts that offer like free information that you can like kind of scour and put together, but including my account. But there's just so much out there at your disposal. The biggest thing is just going to be showing up. It's just going to be trying and asking questions. That's it.
Yeah, like we said with coaching and having someone guide you to some degree, like it's a luxury because you can pay to shortcut it instead of having to do the work to find the things yourself and hold yourself accountable and these kind of things. You pay someone to do that for you, and it'll save you a ton of time and make your life easier. But like to your point, if budget is an issue, don't let that be the thing that's like, oh, well, I can't afford to hire a coach, so I'm doomed. Like,
Yeah.
that's not you putting forth your best effort. To be blunt, it's like you have all the information accessible to you. You put out a ton of great information, and so do so many others. And it's like it's there for free. Like, there's no gatekeeping here. The thing that you're paying for is the structure and the accountability, and like maybe some minor individual tweaks and things like that, and shortcutting. But like, I don't know, 75-80% of all the stuff, like, it's very figure outable. It's just hard to do. But you're capable of hard things, and you're a strong person, and like you can do it.
I think another big thing with all hormone issues for any women listening, even men, there's never going to be one magic supplement that's going to fix anything. There's never going to be one magic lifestyle protocol. It needs to be that lifestyle transformation. And I think everyone needs to get comfortable with accepting that. That is the biggest thing, is it's going to be a lifestyle overhaul, and it's going to be uncomfy, but worth it.
100% agreed. And we didn't really talk about men's stuff today, of course, but like
Similar,
but similar thing where it's like, it's becoming more like, oh, we'll just do TRT. It's like, yeah, but like that doesn't solve all the issues of your life. If it did, and there was no negative consequences to that, then everyone would just do that, and we'd all be walking around like Greek gods. Like, but obviously, it's not the solution to all the issues. So like, there's got to be more to it. Same thing with the GLP-1. Same thing with any medication. If it was that easy, everyone would just do it. But unfortunately, it's not.
Amen.
Amen. Ashley, thank you very much for sharing. This was very generous of you to spend your time and give us teach me personally and to teach all of us about this. Where can people learn more about you, more about what you've got going on, resources, all that stuff?
Yeah, of course. Find me on Instagram. That is where I'm most active. My handle's at dr.dwyer, D as in dog, so at dr.dwyer. By the time this episode comes out, if you can still make it, I am hosting a free PCOS masterclass on July 8th at 7 p.m. CST. So I can give you the link in the show notes for that. And then if you are listening after the masterclass, there will be replays, and we're also doing like a PCOS cohort. So if anyone has any questions, just slide in my DMs. It's
awesome.
Always I'm responsive.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. And important to highlight, like, it's like, yes, Ashley runs her own business and her own self. Like, it's not like some bot in there. But yeah, so this episode should be out, I believe, like the day before. So if you can get into the masterclass live, then do that. The link to it will be in the show notes of this. But if you can't make it live, or if you're hearing this at some later date, there will be a replay and stuff available, and so you can still get all the information from Ashley. Any last words before we close it off here?
No, I think we said everything needed to be said. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And thank you very much, everybody, for listening. Make sure you're following Dr. Ashley Dwyer on Instagram and everywhere else. Tune into the masterclass and all those good things. And, do some good work for yourself because you deserve it. Go outside. Be a good person. See you next time.